Hi everyone, this is Britt Simon. So I've got a few minutes here, so I thought I'd take some questions. This is kind of an odd time of day for me to be online, so I don't know if anybody's going to be around. I can't think of. This is fairly late in the night in Europe on Sunday night. Probably in Africa, it's going to be even later. Um, so, but by all means, if you have any questions, if there's anyone around that wants to ask some questions, I'd be happy to take them for you on any subject. So, as I've done traditionally over the last few months, let me just firstly say about DV 2020 and DV 2021. We're still waiting for the appeal. There is no news about that. We just have to wait and see, and hope for the right outcome. So, Mohammed, there you go. There's your question answered. There's no news, right? And I would certainly, if there's going to be news, I will be shouting it from the rooftops. Believe me. So, thank you, Danu. Yes, I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you, Image Whisperer, and Samuel. Nairobi progress. I'm glad you brought up Nairobi. I had the horrible experience of watching a video today by a woman who I think is Nafula Channel or something, Nafula, and the particular video was supposedly to help Kenyans because she was explaining what would be a problem for those people's cases. And so she made a case that the I-134 is absolutely essential for Kenyans. It's not. That's not true. It is asked for in some cases, but not in all cases, as she made out. And lo and behold, on her webpage, the problem that she's telling you is going to guarantee you not to get your visa, the I-134, she's got a solution for like $650 or $500. Depending on whether you're a single person or a married couple. And then she's trying to arrange host pairings, as she puts it, for only $50 or whatever. Clearly, this person is simply trying to make money from people, which I think is disgusting. I don't agree with that at all. She was also creating unnecessary fear and just blatantly lying about sending a document to the embassy of people that she would authorize to use her address. And if you used an address without authorization in the States, it was an illegal, it was a crime. Absolute lies. So shame on you if you're listening, Nafula. You certainly put the fool in Nafula, that's for sure. But shame on you for taking advantage of people. But anyway, Nairobi progress. It's not good. That's going to be, funnily enough, not that this woman that I just mentioned understands that. That's the biggest problem for people at that embassy at the moment. It's the embassy performance. So let me just check this. So Nairobi, Kenya. Nairobi has scheduled 42 cases for the month of May, 65 for April, and it's scheduled 160 in March. So they're actually going down, unbelievably. They're actually reducing the number of cases that they're accepting, which is just horrific. And they show a significant backlog, back to about case number 24,000. That means that they are only taking cases which were current much earlier in the year and added to the AV queue much earlier in the year. So there's a big backlog of people at that embassy that are waiting for their chance. But Nairobi are reducing the number of interviews that they are taking. So they're causing a bigger and bigger problem. They're causing a bigger and bigger mess, and they clearly don't intend to fix it. And unfortunately, there's nothing we can do to force them to fix that problem. So sorry about that, but that's my honest assessment of that situation for Nairobi. Perfect time of day, says Paige, in the Aussies. Is this really? Is this? Oh, US Aussies can get on board. Yeah, exactly. It's only good for people in America probably this time. So, but yeah, hopefully we'll have some Aussies from America. So, Algeria. Algeria has done a fantastic job. You have no reason to complain. At Algeria, they've done an amazing job. They've taken hundreds of cases each month. They are seriously getting close to the point where they probably will have issued more visas to Algeria, or as many visas as can be issued to Algerians before they hit a country cap. There's a 7% cap that applies on any single country. It's not a quota, it's a cap. It's not every country gets 7%. That clearly wouldn't work. If you just work out how many countries you could serve in 100%, it wouldn't make sense. But no single country can take more than 7%. That's what the rule says. So that's 3850 visas. And with the number of visas that Algeria has already issued and those that they have ready for interview that have not already been passed, they're pretty close to that already. They probably only need a couple of hundred, 200 or 300, no more than about 200 interviews, probably, which would account for about 400 people, no more than that. So they're extremely close. They could probably cap out in the next month, meaning August. They could probably cap out. So we'll see very small amount of 2NLs for Algeria in September. It'll mostly be game over by by August for them. So, but that's a good thing. That's like that's what this lottery should be about. They should be getting as many visas out to people as quickly as possible. And some countries have done that very well, like Algeria, and other countries like Nairobi have done a disgraceful job. It should be better. Christopher says, lottery DV winner from 2022 from Sydney. Been living in New York City for almost 7 months now. Oh, you're very welcome, Christopher. I'm glad things are working out. Be interested to hear about New York City. How you feel about that? It's the city that never sleeps, right? What about 2023 3600? So when you say 3600 and there's no region, then that's kind of meaningless, right? I mean, it's totally meaningless. There are 5 different regions that could have that case number. So which region is it? Which embassy are you at? And even if I know all of those things, I probably still am not going to make a prediction. So, so you have to be a little bit more clear than just tell me a random number here. Do you think NVC will send 2NLs next week? NVC has never sent a 2NL for DV lottery. They don't deal with DV lottery. I think you mean KCC. Will KCC send a 2NL next week? Well, they're probably still sending 2NLs, yes. But fairly soon, we could see the next visa bulletin. Could be this week. And so once we see the new visa bulletin, it really signifies the end of scheduling for 1 month and that we're moving to the next month. So once we see the visa bulletin published, we'll then start to see August interviews being arranged. And so, that's just the general cadence, how it works. Okay. I know you get a lot of these. Can you give your opinion on Zimbabwe Embassy progress? Okay, you're right. I do get a lot of these, and I do get a little bit tired because I've explained in a couple of videos how to check yourself. But I'll do this for you. So Zimbabwe is only taking like a handful of cases each month. That's probably because they don't have many local cases, right? Let me just check that. Feasibility. Let me check how many cases you probably know off the top of your head. I don't know how many CERTs there were in Zimbabwe, so I'm just checking that. So the way I check that is to look at the visa bulletin for last August, which is where all the countries were published. So Africa, Zimbabwe had 202. So if we look then, so 202 selectees, of which all of those are current, but probably, let's say, 60% or 120 to 140 would want to proceed with their visa. That would be about probably about 60 to 70 cases for the year, right? So if that's the case, then I would expect them to be taking around about 5 to 10 cases on any given month, which is roughly what they're taking. But they've only taken so far, they've taken 70 people from 26 cases. Okay, so they've probably got a little bit of work left to do, but I don't think you wouldn't consider them backlogged as such. It's just a very small embassy in terms of, they're not doing that much business. That's just quite normal, right? But with an embassy so small, they could have a DV lottery party one week, and they could get all of their cases interviewed in 1 week. So you never want to count out a very, very small embassy like that, because they can make a very small change, but it actually makes a very big help to the local number of selectees. Okay. I submitted my DS 260 for the DV 2024. When will they start processing the case? So they start receiving cases like within a day or two after the lottery announcements are made, right? And they start processing the earliest received cases. What happens is they open those cases in the received order, no matter whether that case is a low number or a high number, no matter whether it's from Africa or from Oceana or wherever. They just start opening the cases in the order received, right? Now, this is going to be a challenge that I'm going to be dealing with for the rest of the year. I know it, and every year from there on in. What I really want to get you to understand is that no two cases will be processed at the same rate, right? So 2 cases submitted on May 10th, let's say, a few days after the lottery announcement. 2 cases could take totally different times to finish. One could be a single person from, let's say, France, who's never been outside of France, and works in let's say works in a bank or something, right? And therefore is extremely boring sort of history, right? And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but it's just a very simple case to process, right? So that case could be opened. They look at that and they say, well, there's nothing here, and they process that case pretty quickly. The next person, maybe it's a family of 7 people, and dad is a nuclear physicist, mum's a rocket scientist, and one of the kids is going to school to learn, biological warfare. They're from Iran, and they travel extensively in the Middle East, right? Clearly, that case is going to take longer to process, right? You can get that, right? A single person with no travel history and from a normal, boring situation versus a larger family with more complicated jobs, more complicated travel history, more people on the case. That's going to take longer, right? So that simple point confuses people, and it will continue to confuse people, because it sort of breeds this bullshit mindset that, oh, I must have done something to throw my case up, or there's some problem with my case. No, it's not necessarily that. It's just the way it works, right? And it also breeds this nonsense about, you mustn't unlock your case, because some cases take longer than others. People then say, oh, that's because you unlocked your case. But what they don't understand is that the person next to them that didn't unlock the case is also waiting for their case to be processed, because they've got a family of 7, they're from the Middle East and so on. Right? So they are processing cases now. Long-winded way of saying they're processing cases now. But just because they're processing cases now doesn't mean that your particular case is going to be processed by tomorrow. Right? You have to wait and see when your particular case. And the reasons why some cases take longer than others, I've mentioned some of them: work history, residence history, travel history. But it also could be as simple as your name. Your name could match someone on the terrorist watch list, and maybe they want to sort of figure out who you are, right? Could be as simple as that. Some cases are going to take a little bit longer to process than others, and you just need to be patient. And of course, no cases can be scheduled for interview until the first interviews will be scheduled. The 2NLs will be sent in August of this year for October interviews, right? But that's for people who have been processed and they've got very low case numbers, right? So this process is a lot about patience. You have to be patient in this process, okay? Bula, any update on Oceana? So I'm starting to sense a little bit of fear coming from Oceana selectees for DV 2023. DV 2020, 21, 22 all went current, and people have just assumed, therefore, that you could stuff any amount of meat into the meat grinder and it will all finish coming out the bottom. And it doesn't. And the impression has been given, and even some lawyers think that the government somehow know what they're doing when they select the people, that they won't over-select people. That there must be a way that all the cases process. Well, the reality is they over-select in some years, and this year, DV 2023, we know they over-selected, or I know they over-selected, right? So Oceana is probably not going to reach its highest case numbers. Where the cutoff will be, I don't know. We're at about 1650 now, I think. We might see, another 100 increase this month, maybe 150, but I don't think we're going to see a jump to seeing current. I don't think that's going to happen in the remaining 2 months. So you just have to wait and see what will happen. I can't really predict it, with accuracy. So the Oceana is going to benefit a little bit from the under fulfillment of visas in Africa. There's going to be a bit of a transfer to the other regions from Africa, because Africa is underfilling. And it's underfilling, by the way, because of some embassies, not because of any centralized decision to underfill it. Algeria is an example that if you've got an embassy that's willing to do the work, KCC will stuff all the cases they can in that embassy, right? And so if Nairobi and Accra and all these other embassies that are playing like idiots were working hard, then KCC would be stuffing cases into them. Believe me, they're ready to do that. But because that's not happening at a number of embassies in Africa, then Africa is going to underfill, and then that is going to free up some visas for other regions. So instead of the cutoff for Oceana, for example, coming at around about 850 to 900 visas, we could easily see them get 1,000 visas, which is several hundred more than they've got today, right? So there is some good news, but it's not certain, where we'll see a cutoff. But I'm pretty sure that we will see a cutoff for Oceana. Okay, hope that explains it. Fariz, I am doing great, thank you. My throat's a bit sore, but apart from that, I'm doing great. Turkey Embassy backed up a lot for DV 2023. That's true. They're processing cases from February. Can you please check it online, give your opinion if you think there's a chance for cases 15K. You already know what I could tell you by looking at the data. You already know the information you need to know. They're backed up. They've got a backlog. So far they're working on cases that went into AV status from February, and unless they suddenly turn the dial up and say, look, we're going to take 600 cases in August and 600 more in September, they're going to leave people disappointed, right? So I don't know what they're going to do, and I can't predict the chance for a case at 15K. It's just, I don't know what they're going to do. So as much as I do, and well done for being informed. I'm sorry I can't sort of make it clearer for you, but we have to just wait and see what they will do, right? But I got my fingers crossed for Turkey and for the Iranians also that are waiting for interviews at Turkey. Okay, David, is there any second chance for us who are not selected in the DV 2024? Somebody asked a question about this. I answered a question today about this. There is this principle of a second draw in some years. Last happened in DV 2018. Now, in DV 2018, they selected 83,000 people, I think, on the first draw, and they added additional numbers to the draw later on, around about September, October. But the only years that happens is when we see the first number of selectees drawn from the first draw at something quite well below 100,000, right? So if we see the number of selectees, which we don't know yet, as being over 100,000, then there will certainly not be a second draw in DV 2024, right? When are we going to find out that number? We'll know in July or August. It'll be published in the visa bulletin that is published during July or during August. One of those two visa bulletins will have a country-by-country breakdown of all the selectees for DV 2024. Until then, we don't know. Now, from the case numbers I'm hearing, I'm tending to think that we've probably got enough selectees for DV 2024. And, if you've got case numbers like Africa, 122,000, bear in mind that any second draw would mean that the new draw people would start getting numbers from the highest case number we've already had. So if the highest case number is 122,001, then the second draw would start 122,002, and 3 and 4, right? So they would be the highest possible numbers that we've ever seen, right? So I don't think you really want to be a second draw candidate in DV 2024, to be honest. But anyway, we'll know better in July or August. All right. Felix from Guatemala. If I marry my partner after winning the lottery, will there be a problem? We already have a child together. So it's not a problem. It's a very normal thing to do. A couple that is in love, that have already got a life together, that have been dating, perhaps living together, perhaps making babies together, they're obviously not going to split up, right? And the most normal thing is for them to say, oh my gosh, how are we going to get both of us to get green cards? Well, you get married. Obviously you get married. And the COs know that and they respect that. There's no problem with that. Now, sometimes they want to know that that marriage is genuine. And so they would ask for proof of that marriage being genuine. But a child that you both share is pretty good proof, right? Because people doing a scam just getting married don't go to the lengths of actually having a baby together. Because that takes some time, right? Some 9 months or so. So you'll be all right? Don't worry about it. Just marry as soon as you possibly can. Don't get all romantic on us and say, oh yeah, well, I'm going to set my wedding for June of next year. I'm going to have flowers and I'm going to, no, your Uncle Simon says, get the hell out to a church or a registry office or whatever the hell you have to do to get married now, right? You can do the romantic bullshit later. But right now you need to get married so you can submit your DS-260s as a married couple and make sure you include the baby. Okay? All right then. I hope that's clear, Felix. Good luck to you. Buen suerte. Marcin, winner of DV 2024, EU 37,000. Is the embassy in Naples doing a good job? You haven't got any reason to be worried about Naples. They're doing fine. 2024 winner from Africa, single, no kid. I want to know whether I can use my friend as my host and my brother as my sponsor to support my application. Absolutely, both of those are fine. The sponsor doesn't have to be the same person as the host. In fact, this concept of a host is really the address you give in the DS-260 is basically just where you want the green card to be sent. But it can be useful for the consular officer to know that you have a place to stay, that you have a plan, and in your case, you've got a couple of people who are prepared to help you. That's really good, and so that will benefit you. Elvis says he wants to know how accurate Embassy is doing. There's a special place in hell for whoever's making the decisions at ACRA. They're doing terribly. Don't understand why they think that's okay. It's a piss poor job. In January, February, and March, they took 30 cases per month. In April, they took 25 cases. In May, they took 25 cases. It's absolutely pathetic. They should be doing far better, and they're just messing around. So they're doing bad, and I'm sorry, but most people at Accra Embassy are going to lose out because of the decisions made at Accra Embassy. Okay. How long do you wait for an SSN after arriving in the USA? Usually takes 2 to 3 weeks. If you selected the option in the DS260 for the government to apply for that on your behalf, it normally takes 2 to 3 weeks. If it's not there by 3 weeks, then you go to the local SSA office, the Social Security Administration office, and you apply from the beginning with them because something has gone wrong in the system and they haven't applied for it. That's what it means. Okay. Abraham says he's from Liberia. What is the possibility of getting someone getting a visa when you add your spouse to the case? Like I said, it's absolutely fine earlier, Abraham, as long as you're not bullshitting in any way, as long as there's no fraudulent intent about the marriage. If you're marrying your friend's sister and your friend is offering you $10,000 and all that sort of bullshit, that's going to get caught out, right? They're looking for that sort of scam, and in that case, they would ban both of you for life, and they could be talking of immigration fraud and that sort of thing. But if you've got a genuine relationship that you can show with, let's say, photos or emails or some sort of proof that you've had a relationship prior to the entry, prior to the win, then of course you would get married. That's the most sensible thing in the world, right? But if you won the lottery and then a month later you suddenly discovered a girl that you'd never had any correspondence with before, you'd never traveled with that person, you never had any proof, and then you have a little marriage with no photos of the wedding, and it's a small marriage and all that sort of thing, then they're going to be very suspicious of that sort of thing in countries like Liberia. Okay. Abbas says, currently I'm in Somalia. KCC assigned me to Nairobi. As embassy of my interview location, I need to change to Mumbai. I will go there at the time KCC sends me to 2NL. Do I need to unlock? What you need to do is, if you live in Mumbai, then you would need to contact KCC and say, hey, unlock my case. I need to unlock my address. I need to change my address. If, on the other hand, you're simply trying to get them to change embassy, then basically KCC doesn't want to do that for you. But you can try. You can try contacting Mumbai, see if they'll take your case. Ideally, you want to get Mumbai, ask KCC on your behalf for your case. That would be the ideal way. But it's not likely to happen, is my honest answer. And you, like hundreds and possibly thousands of others, are going to go down with the ship in Nairobi, unfortunately. Is Paris a good embassy for DV winners? Yeah, it's fine. No problem with Paris, apart from the Parisians. But that's just a British perspective. I submitted my DS260 and when checking in the website via visa status check, it said the case number is invalid. Is there any explanation for that? The usual explanation is that you're making a mistake in the way that you're putting the data in. And you'll probably say to me, no, I'm not. And I can't tell you the number of people who said, oh, no, I'm not making a mistake. And then for a few of those people, I would say, okay, give me your details. Send me an email with your details. Show me exactly what you're entering. And I try on their behalf, and hey presto, I get in first time. Because I'm paying attention to what I'm being asked to put into the various fields. I'm doing it properly, and they're not. And that's basically the difference, right? So I've made a couple of videos to explain that. You need to remove the leading zeros from your case number. So if your case number is 2020, what your DS260 to 24. So let's say a 2024 AF 000123445. You drop off that 000 and you just go AF 12345, right? 2024 AF 12345, right? That's what I mean by removing the leading zeros. So you remove the leading zeros, you put the confirmation number in where it says confirmation number. That's the number you use or the code you use to get into the ESC page. And if you're not sure about the details you're entering in, you've got your birth date wrong or something like that, then you go into the ESC page, you go into the entrance status check, and you go into the lost confirmation number link, because if you enter your details wrongly a number of times on the DS260, you will block it. And it's a pain in the ass to fix that problem. It's complicated. And a better way to confirm your details is to do that through the ESC page. Even if you know your confirmation code, you get a chance to put in your birthday, your name, make sure you got all the details correct. Okay, so try again, but use the ESC page in order to make sure you're not trying the DS260 with bad data. Okay. Adrian says, I need to write to KCC to confirm the country of interview for DV 2024. What should this letter contain, and how can I do it? If you've already submitted your DS260, number one, you would have picked an embassy on that form, right? And number two, KCC will then ignore your choice of embassy that you made on that form, believe it or not, and they'll base the decision on where you should be interviewed based on your current address. So you don't need to email them to confirm where you want to be interviewed unless there's something sort of funky about your case, right? So if, for example, you live in America, but you've decided for whatever reason to do consular processing, and let's say you're from Spain, so you would then, in that case, you would email them saying, yes, my current address is in America, but I want to choose my home embassy, which is Spain, Madrid embassy. That's where I would like to have the interview. That's the only real time that you need to email. That's the only sort of situation where you would need to email KCC. Other than that, just let them pick the embassy for you, or go with what you picked on the embassy, on the DS260. Okay. Mohandis says, 2 months ago, I have a critical issue of getting the visa of my new address, but luckily I now get the visa. I'm coming to the new. Okay, great. Good. I'm glad, Mohandis. I was just trying to work out what you were saying there, but it's a good news point. Good luck to you. Any tips for Montreal consulate besides? So DS5535, yeah. I mean, preemptively fill that in so you can present that at the interview. That's good. Make sure you've got all your documents ready. If you filled in your DS260 well, then you're less likely to get the DS5535 anyway. But just keep your fingers crossed, keep calm, everything is fine. Freddie says, went to the interview without my derivatives and got the visa. Fine. Consulate told me to bring my family in for the interview before 30th September. Our visa's always available. You need to get your ass down there, right? The consular officer was very kind to you. You should have actually had your family with you at the first interview. But visas could run out before the end of September, right? So you need to get your ass down to the embassy as quickly as you possibly can. Make arrangements to book an interview. Now, it might be financially difficult or whatever, but find a way, okay? I don't know, rob a bank or something. Figure it out. Find a way to make it happen, but get yourself booked and work towards that goal, okay? So just get down there and don't leave it until September, okay? Hi, Simon, moving to New Jersey and staying with the family. How many dollars per hour do you think reasonable pay for a job? Oh, God. To work for a living? Well, it's very subjective, right? So it depends where you are, and New Jersey is a state. It's not a village, right? So I can't tell you what the correct rate of pay is in New Jersey as a whole. But if you're going to stay with family, they'll give you good guidance about what a good rate of pay is and that sort of thing. There is a minimum wage. Federally, it's $7.25 an hour. I can tell you that there is no one in California that's living on well, where I live anyway. There are some parts of California that are less expensive. But for example, when you go to a fast food restaurant here, the salaries, the wages start at around about $15 or $20 an hour, because it's just much more expensive to live here. So whereas you could work for the same organization, perhaps in a different place in Florida, and they'll pay you $7.25 an hour, which is the federal minimum wage, right? But you don't want to survive. You didn't come to America to work for minimum wage, right? So you want to find your best career, your best job. You want to find ways of propelling yourself, right? Don't come over here to wash plates. Yeah, I mean, you can wash plates wherever you live now, right? So if you want to come here with a plan in mind. How can you better yourself? How can you improve yourself? And what sort of jobs are out there that pay well? And well, I don't know what skills you've got, but there are good jobs here in America. You just got to have the guts to say you're good enough, you're going to do it, and you go out and earn the money. Okay, work hard. Hi Simon. As for the butcher, what is the number? As for the butcher, what the hell does that mean? What is the number of visas remaining until the end of September 23? So right now we have, let's see. Right now we have just over 34,000 have been issued, so about 20,000 are left. But there are quite a number of people already programmed in for interviews over the next couple of months, right? So, things will probably get tight. I think that most of the processing is probably going to be happening in August. I think we'll see less 2NLs issued for the month of September. And September I see is probably a chance for them to clear up some AP cases, 221G, that means. And just issue tidy up as many cases as they can. Okay. Do you suggest to write to MVC for expediting DV case? 100% no. Again, MVC don't deal with DV cases. No part of MVC deals with DV cases. It's KCC. And KCC can't expedite your case. It's simply a matter of where you are in the AV queue, right? The queue of cases at AV, at your embassy, and how many slots the embassy opens up. So there isn't an expedite type button on this. This is not something you can expedite. You just have to, hope and pray that it's going to be okay. Okay. I spoke about DV 2021 right at the beginning. Tips for interview location change. I already addressed that earlier in this video, and I have many times as well. Okay, 2023 AS 7000. As of January 23, case was on interview processing status. You mean AV? But you haven't received your 2NL yet. Yep, it depends on your embassy, as you know. I don't know which embassy you're at, but I'm sure you know by now because I've seen you before on the channel, that it's about your embassy performance. It's not about your case number necessarily. Okay. Would you mind to speak a little? Abdel says, speak a little bit more about the case where one of the couple is in active duty in the army, please. Okay. So if you're in the army and let's say you're derivative of a winner or you're the winner themselves, then what is the nature of your service in the army? So you have to be able to resign your position in the army. Now, in some cases that's not possible, but you have to be free to move to America. The consular officer can't give you the visa unless you are free to take up that visa. See what I mean? So if you are able to leave the military position you're in, then you can go through the process. But if you're unable to do that, then you would be denied a visa. Okay, so you've got to make that clear when you're at the embassy that you can actually leave the military. It's not something you're obligated to stay in for 2 more years or something. That would be not possible. Okay. Jody, I'm not sure. Jody says, when do expect KCC will send the request for the next stage? You're not supposed to send any documents. Sydney DV 2024. Okay. The government have confirmed that there is going to be no document procedure for DV 2024. They published that just over the last couple of weeks, I think it was. I did actually post something on my blog. So there is no document stage. You don't send any documents prior to the interview. And you simply get all your documents and you're going to show them to the consular officer on the day of interview. So the stage is you submit your DS-260, you wait to become current, you receive your 2NL, you go for an interview and show them the documents. Okay, there's nothing else for you to do in between apart from preparing for your interview, making sure you've got all the documents, including police certificates and that sort of thing. Okay. Are the selectees from a particular country's case numbers follow each other, or are they spread in between country selectees? The draw is random, right? So what we tend to see is, I can tell you, for example, there are percentages that tend to get allocated to certain countries because, let's say, you'll see in the region of Asia, you tend to see something like 30 or 40% being allocated to Iran and Nepal. And so out of every 1,000 cases, let's say 400 would belong to Nepal, 400 would belong to Iran, and 20 would be the rest of Asia, right? Out of every 1,000 cases. Now, that's fairly reliable. You can see that. Now, it's not because there's any deliberate intent in that, or that they're allocating numbers to countries. It's simply a factor of how many entries go into the system and then are picked randomly, okay? And so when you have a randomized selection of, let's say, 2 million entries, then you're going to get, the same number roughly for Nepal and the same number for Iran and the same number for rest of Asia, as I just laid out, if the ratios of the entries were in those same numbers, right? That's what it means. So they don't say, okay, everyone between 1 and 500 is going to be for Zimbabwe, and everyone between 501 and 1010 is going to be for Uganda. It's not like that. They don't issue the numbers in that way. It's just a random draw. So that's how it works. I hope that's clear. At best, I think we already talked to you. Hi, Britt. I want to know about the situation, the DS-260 waiting for DV 2023 to send the instructions for a further process. So is it possible to do a lawyer to be active if the status is at MVC? Basically, you're asking, can a lawyer speed your case up? A lawyer can't speed up your case getting a 2NL, okay? The mandamus lawsuits that you sometimes will hear about will be when someone has been for an interview and they are put onto some sort of 221G processing, subsequent processing, and they feel like that processing is taking too long, or they're concerned that it could take too long. That would be the time that a lawyer might be able to help, but not, a lawyer can't help you get ahead of the queue. The queue is set, and your position in the queue is set by your case number and the day you were added to the queue. Okay, so no, don't waste your money on a lawyer. And if a lawyer tells you something different, and they can fix your problem for only a few $100s or whatever, they're scamming you. They don't know what they're talking about, and they just want your money. So don't go with the lawyer that says anything different. Okay. Okay. If someone from Sudan is born in Saudi Arabia, but doesn't have Saudi citizenship, but is now living in Sudan, is he chargeable to Asia or Africa? He would be born in Saudi Arabia, therefore he would be chargeable to Saudi Arabia. And the fact that he doesn't have citizenship is irrelevant. As long as his documentation shows that he was born in Saudi Arabia, then he would be charged to Saudi Arabia. This process is based on place of birth, not country of citizenship or current passport or anything like that. Okay. So he would be a Saudi case, and therefore Asia. Okay. Please, my case 37AF DV 2021. Please go get a chance. Again, I spoke about DV 2021 right at the beginning. It breaks my heart to read all these, questions from people who are still waiting for 2020 and 2021, but we just have to be patient. There's nothing we can do to speed it up. Next one, Dalil. I want to ask if we can send an email to KCC to know how many selectees there are in Africa, for example. I mean, you can send an email, but it's a waste of your time and theirs. They're not going to answer. They don't know. I mean, they don't even know yet, right? KCC are not privy to that sort of information. It'll be in the visa bulletin that's published in July or in August. Okay, so just be patient. There's no need for you to know. Everything's fine. Just be patient. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Ivan, the PC gamer, didn't get selected. Hopefully on the second or third try or the 20th. Haha. Yeah, I think I remember you actually saying something on one of the videos. And I'm sure, like many of us, you enter the lottery and you think, oh, I feel really lucky. I feel like it's going to be my time. And many people almost treat it like it's a plan, but it's just a lottery. And in Africa, your chance of selection is like once every 100 to 200 years. So, it's not a good plan. It's just a lottery. Okay. Furrow says, do you provide consulting for DV cases? How to connect with you? No, I don't. I don't do any consulting for DV cases or any other cases. I'm not a lawyer. I don't charge any fees for anything I do, and I don't like people that do, frankly. When they're non-lawyers, lawyers charge fees. That's fine. They've educated themselves for that. But YouTubers that charge fees are scum of the earth, as far as I'm concerned. So no, I don't do that, and I don't do any one-to-one consulting. But everything I know, I'm happy to tell you on YouTube conversations or on my blog. I'm answering any questions you like on the blog. So there's really no need for you to try and engage with me one-on-one. There's no need. I would much rather you ask a question, I answer it in public, and then maybe other people read it and benefit from that same answer. That's why I answer all the questions in public, right? It's just to maximize the benefit of the time I'm spending. That's all it is. Okay. Okay. Yvonne says, glad to catch me live. Can you tell me how can I increase my chance of winning DV 2025? Single parent of one. Do you apply for people? Can I kindly send in my details in October so I apply for so you can apply for me? No, I don't do that. And again, I know some YouTubers do that. I don't do that. How can you maximize your chances? Let me help you with that. So the biggest thing, so I just read a government document the other day. The lottery draw process is they take all of let's say there's 15 million entries. They number firstly, they spread those entries into their different regions. So let's say they take Europe, and let's say, just for example, there are 5 million entries out of the 15 million that are for Europe, right? They randomly shake those entries up, and they number every single entry from 1 to 5 million, right? That's literally what they do. They give a number to every single entry. And then they pick some number of cases and they start to process those. There was a government form that they put out, a progress report that they put out that we were given access to the other day. And in this particular year, they had 143,000 people selected. And of that 143,000 selected cases, they had already disqualified 60,000 of those, right? 60,000. So almost half of them, right? And that was based on an initial review of the photos. So the biggest single thing that I can tell you that would help you is to pay attention to the photo requirements. Make sure you've got a photo which is the right layout, face layout, etc. Correct dimensions. Doesn't have to be precise, but it has to be pretty close to the correct dimensions. It needs to be against a plain colored white or very light colored background, head and shoulders. And just follow the instructions and then produce a photo from that, which is 600 by 600. No photo editing. You don't edit it. They can detect the editing. Just take a decent photo. Now, if you can't achieve that, then it might be worth you spending 10 or 15 bucks or whatever to have the photo done professionally. But don't use the photo year after year either. You must redo a new photo each year. Okay, and it's got to be recent. So probably your photo is the biggest single help that I can give you. And then just make sure you're entering with all the right information. Don't make the mistake that some people make, where they say, "Oh, my friend told me that single people are more likely to get selected, so I entered single even though I'm married and I've got 3 kids. I left them off. Aren't I smart?" Well, no, you're not smart, because if you're selected and you've left off your spouse or you've left off any of your children, biological or stepchildren or adopted children, if you leave any of them off, if you leave if you leave off your spouse, if you lie about your marital status, all of those things, you're going to get disqualified anyway, right? So don't do that. So that's all I can say. And apart from that, Yvonne, it's just a lottery. It's not a plan. It's just, it might work out, it might not. It's just, keep trying. Okay, so keep going. Okay. Denny says, please, I have a question. If the evidence of the penalty is clear, but once you've been arrested and not punished, is there any problem for not writing a DS-260? Okay, so if you've been arrested but not punished, that normally means that you were innocent. It's okay to be arrested, right? If you're arrested and charged and convicted of a crime, that can sometimes stop you getting an immigration benefit like the DV lottery, but not always. It depends on the crime that you committed and the seriousness of that crime and what type of crime it was, right? There's a saying which is crimes of moral turpitude, and it refers to certain types of crimes, right? There are some crimes that they consider sort of unforgivable, and those are the ones that will block you from getting an immigration benefit into the USA. But if you were arrested and not convicted, and if it was something trivial like a bar fight or something, you were arrested and then you were let go because you were drunk in the bar or something, that's not going to stop you getting a green card. If you did that every weekend solid for a year and a half, just immediately prior to the interview, they're probably going to be worried about that, right? But generally, no, it's not going to be a problem. Okay. Okay. All right. 1 or 2 more questions, then we'll call it a day. Can I clarify on the I-134 its requirements? Okay, so all immigration cases to the States have a risk to them, which is considered to be public charge, right? There is a part of immigration law that says we should not be bringing immigrants to the country that will require help. Yes, honey? No, the water. What water? It's overflowing everywhere. Okay, okay. Can you wait? Like, you turned the tap off, right? Okay. So apparently someone's flooded something. I don't know. Okay, so the I-134. Yeah, so it's about public charge. And if you are a public charge concern, which means that you're going to need public support, then you may not be able to get your green card, right? So one way that you can assure the consular officer that isn't a problem in your case is by showing significant savings, or by having a very lucrative career you're going to go and get a job very easily, or by having an I-134, which is a form filled out by someone who lives in the USA, who says, I'm going to take responsibility to support this person coming to the States. And that person has to have an income which is above 100% of the federal poverty guidelines for the combined family size between the sponsor and the applicant. All right. So if the sponsor has a husband and wife and 2 kids, that's 4. And if you are the applicant and you've got a husband and wife and 1 kid, that's 7 of you total, right? And so you can look up the federal poverty guidelines and see how much income the sponsor would need for that scenario. Okay, so that's basically it. That's the requirements of the I-134 and when you would need it. All right, but if you can show your own savings, then you may not even need it, and it's not asked for from every applicant. It's only in certain cases they ask for it. Okay, well, it seems like I've got a little bit of drama going on in the house, so I'll probably call it a day right now. But and I'll go and help them with whatever they've flooded. But I hope that was helpful for you all, and please do subscribe to the channel to make sure you know when I go live, and look at the other videos that I've produced for you this week. All right, thanks then, everybody. Bye bye.